Hey guys, it's Here's Mike. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about what I believe is one of the strongest, if not best classes that you can have out there in 1-2 at the current meta for what this game is. You might have seen a few builds like this, but I'm gonna go through what I think is like the best setup for the unstable bomber with the jaws setup. I'm not gonna go over the SMG because I don't own it, and I think the pistol is a better version of the SMG. So we're gonna start with the Cradle, and then go over the gear with the mods, and kind of just some upgrades that I think I can get and what like you should be looking for. And then at the end, I'll kind of go over a different variation that you can get um, with this, where we'll switch a few we can switch a few mods out and switch weapons, but the only problem is it costs a lot of star crom in order to get that all set up. So if you guys like the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, as there will be plenty of other Once Human content coming out here soon. So first, we're going to go over our cradle and just kind of go over what we have in the cradle, and just what you can kind of switch some of these out with, depending on what you're doing. So the first few are rapid aid for the cooldown reduction on healing items and the increased healing, which is awesome. After rolling for agility, so after rolling, get 15% damage reduction. Tactical combo, anytime you switch or reload, you get 25% weapon damage for 4 seconds. Huge damage increase. You should always have this one on. And because we're running Unstable Bomber, after reloading, we get an instant damage for Unstable Bomber for plus 25%. Again, for 4 seconds. So this first round blast plus tactical combo just kind of complement each other. Next, we have status enhancement. So after hitting a weak spot, status damage is plus 25% for 3 seconds. This is big because the status damage will increase your unstable bomber damage. So having that plus 25% is really nice to have. Next, we're going to have our Deviation Master. So having it fight alongside of you, you get a plus 50% damage against Deviants. This is really, really big because the gel actually counts for this. So if you throw the gel on the ground and just have it sit there while it heals you, you can then just unload into the boss's head or whatever you're shooting at. It doesn't really matter, and you get the plus 50% damage. So this is really, really big to have, and obviously it will work with any other combat deviant when you have them out there. Next is the handgun enhancement, where we do 20% more damage if we're holding the handgun, and then you get the 1 ammo when you kill an enemy, which really isn't a big deal, but just that plus 20% damage is really big. And then Master Tactician, this is the one you can switch out depending on what you're running. So obviously, if you're going to be doing Monolith, which I was just doing to get a perk, you run this, just throw a tactical item. You don't have to hit the boss with it. You can just throw it right at your feet if you really want to. And then you do 25% more damage. So if you're not running Monolith, I usually just put Sprint on, so you have 5% movement speed, and you running uses less stamina. This is just obviously the faster you move, the faster you can clear things. So if you're running silos and whatnot, I would just run Sprint on here, as all the other mods on here aren't really going to be helping you. So this is what I use with the Master Tactician and Sprint, where you just swap them out depending on what you're running. So next we're going to go on to gear. We'll start with, the big boy itself, the jaws. So with this, we want to use Reckless Bomber. So for every 1% crit rate, unstable bomber damage is increased by 0.5%. You'll see why this actually stacks up really, really big. Except it stacks, with our shaman top. It's going to stack with the gear that we're going to be looking for. So unstable bomber will just have very, very high damage every single time you proc it. On top of that, for our accessories, we use the small compensator using the compact reflex sight, the integrated laser sight, and then the tactical pistol mag. The big reason why I don't use the extended pistol mag is because it reduces your stability, and also you have a slower reload speed. So you want to have a high reload speed with this, so that because of that, this is the best. And with some of the other perks we have, we're going to get a bigger magazine anyways. So we don't really need to have that magazine increase that this one gives you, just because of the perks that we'll have Obviously, if you want to have a bigger magazine, you don't want to reload as often. That is obviously going to hurt you because some of our perks are reloading based. So, but you can always run this. But again, this is what I'm running and what I think is the best for this build. And then we'll talk about the calibration. So I have the rapid shot style. So 25% fire rate increase plus 40% magazine and minus 15% attack with all crit rate bonuses on here. I think this is the best calibration attribute to have on this gun because you want to be able to shoot fast. You want to be able to hit those bullets out because with what the weapon does, is every 4 hits you trigger unstable bomber. So you want to be able to always hit that unstable bomber going out there, so you can shoot faster. And then versus crit hits count as +1 hits. That's where we're building up all this crit rate for it, so you can hit that even quicker, and it just does a lot more damage. And you'll see why with the buffs that we have on here. So currently I am running the Falcon with heavy duty set on here. So with the Falcon, when your stamina is over 90%, your crit rate is increased by 5%, crit damage by 20%. With the 2 set, you get the 12% crit damage. And then the heavy duty right now, I run the 2 set just because you get the elemental damage of plus 8%. 8%. So that helps with the blast damage on here. I'll kind of go over what I would switch this out for and what I am going to switch it out for after I run my weekly purification and then get the 4,000 star crown, and I'll be able to buy the whole set. But we'll start with the mods. So first we'll start with the helmet. So for the helmet, the main one I use is Fateful Strike. So I can't deal weak spot damage anymore, but now because of that, I get plus 10% crit rate and plus 30% crit damage. For the attribute effects that I think is the best for all of the mods that you can get, if you get the god rolls on there, you're going to want to get reload speed increase, status damage increase, element damage increase, and then crit damage. I think those are the 4 best. Obviously, you getting all 4 of those on one of these is very small. So I would really just go for reload speed and then try to get a crit damage or one of the element damage increases, like how this one has the element. There's one for status damage. Either one is really, really good. For this build, if you don't have Fateful Strike for the helmet slot, a good backup is the Deviation Expert. Just because you get the plus 10% fire rate, and then you get 20% status damage increase. So that one is really nice to have on here, and this would be kind of one that you're looking for to change if you are looking to do the next build that I explain at the end of the video here. So next we're going to go to the face mask. You ideally want a legendary version of this. I've probably ran 50 EX1 silos and I haven't gotten the drop, so I don't even think it's in the game. But you want point detonation. There really isn't that great of a mod list for the mask itself for the unstable bomber, so this is kind of the best you can get. And this one kind of actually does work really well with bosses, because usually the bosses are going to be by themselves. So the unstable bomber damage is increased by 20%, which is a really nice increase. I believe the legendary does by 25%. So it's nice to have on this. If you like the other one, you can use it, but I think this is the better of the two. As with all the other mask options, it's those are going to support other classes that you're not actually using if you're using unstable bomber. Next is for the top for your chest piece. I personally like the resistance advantage. I would switch this out, and I'm probably going to be switching it out. I don't think I have it on here. I think I deleted all of them. So right now this is what I have, resistant advantage. So every time I'm out of combat, I can gain 1 stack that has 10% damage reduction every 5 seconds. And these stacks are removed when I get hit. But I would like to switch this out for head-on conflict, which is the one that when there's enemies within 10 or 7 meters of you, you gain 10% damage reduction, and if you get a melee hit from them, you get another 10% damage reduction for 5 seconds. I think that one's better than this because this doesn't stack when you are in combat. So if you're fighting a boss or fighting an elite, you get hit 5 times, or like the Siren for example, 17 of those deviants will just come out and they'll just start smacking you. I lose all my damage reduction very very quickly because I'm focused on just smacking the sirens in the head. Where with the other one, I just get a flat 10% damage reduction, and if I get hit, I get 20% now. So I'd rather have 20 over 0, obviously. But I haven't gotten the legendary version of head-on conflict, so I got to go farm Theta for that one. But this is a good backup, I think, for the chest. If you don't want damage reduction, you could also go throw on a blue mod for like the status element damage increase. And to get some of those, just go run some silos on normal mode, and then just kind of cross your fingers that you get a chest version for it. But that will, increase your status damage for unstable bomber, and that's something that you can put on there as well. For the pants, I think the best one is Deadshot. I haven't farmed this one because I hate fighting the fridge dude. I think he's a boring fight. But the legendary version of this is obviously better. It will increase your crit damage by 5% up to 45% until your next reload, compared to the epic one that I have, which is 4 to 36. This is great because you're going to be hitting crits a lot. So you're just going to keep adding up to your crit damage, which is going to be just more damage output per clip. And as you see, I have 12 bullets in my clip right now. I'll get a few more with the gear that I plan on putting on there. So this, I'll usually always be at around 15 to 20% crit damage increase, which is really really nice to have. And this will stack up a lot really well with the legendary gear too. Next is the gloves. I think these are the best gloves. I know there's some gloves that will increase the crit rate and crit damage, but I think just having the flat 15% crit rate is the best, especially with the legendary gear. Kind of nullifies the crit damage increase for the other mod that you can get. But crit boost violent, 15% is fantastic. This stacked with your gun mod, you instantly do 7.5% more damage with unstable bomber. It's really, really, really nice, I think, to have on here. So this is the best glove mod, I think. I don't think you should really put anything else on. And then the last one is the Falcon shoe, or not my Falcon shoes, is the covered advanced. I think this is the best boot mod that you can put out there. There is one that you do more damage if you have 90% more health. I don't really care for that one because I don't always run at 90% more health. I, am not really always a freak on healing to make sure I'm at 100. So that's why I like this, because if I just don't take damage for 4 seconds, I get a 20% damage boost. So that's weapon damage and status damage for 30 seconds. So I know once this pops off, if I'm just kind of sitting there trying to shoot and I see attacks coming at me, I can go sit around the corner, get this to pop back up. Bam, I do 20% more damage now for 30 seconds. It's a huge damage increase. Great mod. I don't think, unless you're playing with a group, the 90% health one can work out. But I think this one just beats it in all cases, and there's really no need to switch this one out. So then we'll kind of go with the secondary stuff that you can use. So one is the recurve bow. I think this is a good secondary to have on there. Some people don't carry anything. That's obviously up to you. But I like the recurve bow because if a person does have a weak spot, I can shoot them with this. And then because of the bow's bonus, I now get a plus 30% crit rate on that target who is under the bullseye effect. So this is huge, plus 30% when I'm already at, this is bugged out because I reloaded recently. Okay, I guess I'm at just 51%. I believe it's actually like 25 or 20% that I'm at, maybe 26 or something, for the crit rate. So, with this, then that brings it up to the 50% with all the other bonuses that I'm going to be getting, from like the shaman top. Then it brings it up to almost 100%. And with the legendary set that we'll be looking at, you should almost be at 100% crit hit chance. I don't really know what's going on with this UI. It's not really showing everything. So that's the weapon I use. If you like to use something else, just run your favorite weapon, and you can go from there. The next gear after you get the Jaws, because Jaws is obviously the shining star of this build. You can't really do this without it. Is the Shaman Vulture top. Um, Whoops, that's the mod list. Let me just click on this. So with the Shaman Vulture top, the key effect is just after triggering Unstable Bomber, your crit rate is increased by 35% for 3 seconds. So this is the best one that you could possibly get. I think the other one like delays the trigger of Unstable Bomber or something like that. But having your crit rate increased by 35% is huge because that just obviously increases this number, your crit rate for that. So like mine now is at 30% for some reason. So this will go up to 65%, and 65% with this is another, like 33% damage I'm doing with Unstable Bomber on top of that. So it just stacks really, really nicely with it. And then the gear that you're going to want to get out of the Wisp machine that I think is the best. Some people will use something different, like I believe it's the Sheltered set, because you get the elemental damage boost, and they'll pair this with a few purples. But I think with the pistol, it works best with the Lone Wolf. So Lone Wolf, you'll get the magazine increase, you'll get the crit rate increase, but then you also get Lone Shadow stacks, and that's where these Lone Shadow stacks in the 4 set are really going to help you out with this build. Because for every 2 weapon crit hits that you get 1 stack of Lone Shadow, and the Lone Shadow lasts for 30 seconds. So each stack will increase your crit damage by 6%, and at the 3 set, this can stack up to 8 times, and at the 4 set, it can stack up to 10 times. So you get 60% damage increase, and after you kill something, you get a crit rate plus 8%, which is huge. You're always going to be killing these. You just kill a random mob, get your 8% crit rate, and then that's also going to trigger Unstable Bomber most likely. So you're going to get 35 from that, and then you're just going to trigger all these other crit rates and be at around the 80-90%, stacking the crit damage. So you're going to be doing 60% more crit damage now, just hitting all these high numbers with that. So that's what I plan on getting. So as you can see, I'm at 8,700. So once I get my 4,000, I'll be able to buy the 4 set for this. And if you do buy this, I would advise not buying the boots. And the only reason why I say don't buy the boots is, one, I would use the Renegade set boots for this because you get the reload speed. I think that's the best one that you can get out of all these. But if you want to go with the second build, you're going to want to get a unique set of boots. So that way you can still use the full set of Lone Wolf, but then have your unique set on top of that. So that's the set that I think is great. I think that's really all you need for this. The Star Chrome cost isn't really that much. I believe it comes out to be like 31,000 to get everything. That includes the gun, the jaws, that's the shaman top, and then it's all of these 6 pieces, well, 5 pieces, because you already bought the shaman top, 5 pieces of legendary gear on top of that. So getting 31,000 really isn't that bad, especially if you haven't spent any of it. If you gambled it away, RIP, but you can start saving up now and start buying all these sets. And if you want to go a different route and play a different little game with a sniper rifle, that is something that I think you can do with this build, and it would be the Bullseye. So the Bullseye Sniper, is you have a 70% chance to trigger Bullseye with hitting a weak spot. That's whoop-de-doo. The biggest one is the second and third bullet that you get. So after switching the weapon, the first hit will trigger Bullseye regardless. So really the first bullet point doesn't really mean anything unless you're using this as like your main weapon. But then when you use this weapon with a hit, weak spot damage is plus 15% for 10 seconds. So this can stack up to 3 times. You're not going to hit them 3 times with it. You're just going to hit them once, get the 15% stack. So with this, you're going to be taking off Fateful Strike for the helmet. You're going to be putting on the perk. I don't have it in front of me, but it's like after you reload, you get plus crit rate, plus crit damage. Because you obviously want to hit weak spot damage. And with Fateful Strike, you can't. So You'd switch to this sniper rifle, smack the guy once, get bullseye. It applies vulnerability with the bullseye. But then you're going to go down and get, where the hell are the boots? Not the cowboy boots. The Seasoned Hunter leather boots. So after triggering bullseye, the next one bullets, I don't really know why bullets is plural here, will count as a weak spot hit, even if they do not hit the weak spot. And your weak spot damage is plus 30% to enemies affected by the bullseye. The reason why this is huge is because you will hit the bullet, or you'll get 45% damage because you get the 30 from your boots, plus the 15 from your sniper, and then you can crit on top of this when you are shooting your gun. Your unstable bomber won't be affected by this, unfortunately, because that's just how the game works. Where if we go look into our blueprints here, click on the gun. I believe it's if you click on this. But the additional damage from this cannot be strike weak spots or anything, so you're not going to get that extra damage from it. But having that extra damage, you can just crit your normal bullet. So 45%, then you times that by the crit multiplier damage. So that shot can do a whole bunch of damage, which is really, really nice. And sometimes you just need that one last push, when you're fighting a boss or something. Again, this is a very situational build. You're going to be wanting switching weapons a lot. Where with this pistol build, you can kind of just walk up and then just start, unloading on these targets. And it doesn't really matter. You don't have to switch anything. So that's a secondary build that you can do. I might run it if I get bored of this one. But really, I think this with the recurve crossbow is more than enough. Because if you walk up to an elite, you can just shoot it in a weak spot, get bullseye on it, and then you can just melt it within half a second with the jaws, at least. So that's the build. I'm liking it so far. I'm soloing everything on hard, with ease, minus, being an idiot and messing up on some of, the mechanics that the bosses have, just because I want to shoot things and I forget to pay attention. But let me know what you guys think. If you guys want to see anything specific, have any questions about this build, leave them in the comments below. And again, like and subscribe to the channel, and you'll see some more stuff coming soon. Peace.